Catherine Laboure became Saint Catherine Laboure when she was canonized by Pope Pius XII on July 27, 1947. Why did Sister Catherine become Saint Catherine? Was it simply because she experienced apparitions and locutions from the Blessed Mother? These gifts, I'm sure, played a role in her being canonized, but I believe more was involved. That more, I think, was that for 46 years, Sister Catherine faithfully lived out her vocation as a daughter of charity. She was faithful in living her vows, and she was faithful in practicing those virtues which are to characterize the members of the Daughters of Charity. From their founders, St. Vincent de Paul and St. Louise de Marillac, the Daughters of Charity were taught that the virtues which should identify the members of the Daughters of Charity were especially three, namely humility, simplicity, and charity. In the preface to their constitutions, it reads, "The Daughters of Charity, in fidelity to their baptism and in response to a divine call, consecrate themselves entirely and in community to the service of Jesus Christ and their sisters and brothers, namely the poor, in an evangelical spirit of humility, simplicity, and charity." The preface continues, "As long as charity, humility, and simplicity exist among you, one may say the company is still alive." For 46 years, Sister Catherine was faithful to her vows, and she faithfully put into practice these three evangelical virtues. And so let us look at these three virtues and see how Sister Catherine put them into practice. Humility. What is this virtue, and how does a humble person live? Among the various definitions of humility, I mention a few. Humility is a virtue whereby a person recognizes and acknowledges that God is the origin of all the good one is able to do. Humility means being grateful and giving praise to God for these gifts. Humility is the recognition of one's creatureliness, one's humanness, being able to admit one's faults and failings, and even one's sinfulness, but at the same time, knowing that one has been redeemed and forgiven by the gifts of God's mercy and love. Did Sister Catherine practice humility? I believe she was a humble person. Let us look at some examples from her life. Sister Catherine recognized and acknowledged that the apparitions and locutions she was privileged to receive were not of her own doing, but were gifts from God and Mary. And knowing this, recognizing this, she was grateful and thankful, praising God for these blessings. She recognized her own unworthiness. On one occasion, she asked the Blessed Mother to use another, more worthy instrument than herself. Sister Catherine went about her duties in ordinary ways, doing all that was expected of her as a daughter of charity. She never revealed to others, except to her spiritual director, who was also her confessor, that she was the one who had received the apparitions from the Blessed Mother. The virtue of simplicity. Again, a few definitions of the meaning of this virtue. Simplicity is when one acts with a purity of intention, acting in ways to please God and to follow God's will, not one's own will. Simplicity is avoiding doing things out of human respect, acting in order to please others, or to avoid doing things which one should do so as not to upset others. It's doing things not to be praised or to seek the adulation of others. Does Sister Catherine practice simplicity? Yes, she was a simple person. As I mentioned, for 46 years, Sister Catherine kept the secret that she was the daughter who had received the apparitions from Mary. She did not go about proclaiming what God had done for her in order to receive the praise and adulation of her companions. When her companions and community began to discuss and wonder to whom Mary appeared, when they asked Sister Catherine if she knew who it was or if she was the one, she would simply respond, "Don't be so concerned about such things," and then she would direct the conversation to another topic. Most of her companions in the community believed that it could not be her because she was so ordinary, so simple, that she would be the last one who would be blessed in such a way. There was nothing extraordinary about Sister Catherine. As a daughter of charity, she served and did whatever was asked of her by her superiors, working in the kitchen, in the laundry room, on the farm, and finally being in charge of the residents of a retired home where she was stationed. She lived the simple lifestyle, as did most of her companions. The virtue of charity. Again, a few definitions of this virtue. Charity means loving God above all things and loving all others. Charity requires one to respect the dignity of all people, treating all others, even those who might be difficult, with respect and patience. Charity means seeing the face of Jesus in other people, especially in the poor. Charity means to work for both the spiritual and material needs of others. How did Sister Catherine practice charity? As mentioned, she spent a good number of her 46 years of ministry being in charge of the residence for men who were retired from the armed forces of France. Most or all of these men were poor, having no other place to go. Many were ill and elderly. Sister Catherine was able to see the face of Jesus in the men she was serving. She treated the men with dignity and respect, even those who at times could be very demanding, who were troublemakers, who were obnoxious. At times, some of her companions complained that she was too patient and understanding with some of the men, that she should be more of a disciplinarian and more harsh with those who were troublemakers, something she refused to do. Sister Catherine showed these men, or loved these men, often putting their needs even before those of her sister companions. And she often spent hours with those who were dying, leading them to be open to the Lord's graces and to seek pardon for their sins. So Sister Catherine Laboure became Saint Catherine Laboure not simply because of the apparitions and locutions she was blessed to receive, but also, and perhaps more importantly, because she was faithful to her vocation as a daughter of charity, faithfully living her vows and faithfully living those special virtues which are to exemplify the life of a daughter of charity. Is there a message in this for us? Most of us will not be privileged to receive apparitions and locutions from the Blessed Mother or Jesus. However, because of our baptism, like Sister Catherine, each one of us is called to be a saint. Sister Catherine faithfully lived her vocation as a daughter of charity. Each one of us is called to faithfully live our vocation, be that as a married person, a single person, a religious, or a priest. Let us then ask Sister Catherine to help us to faithfully live our vocation and to practice those virtues which will draw us closer to the Lord Jesus and which will enable us one day to be present with her, with our Blessed Mother, and with Jesus in the Lord's heavenly kingdom.